Okay, it's 3 o'clock and the Board of County Commissioners work session's back to our live stream for item 2 on the afternoon's agenda, which is a budget update discussion. And
I'll kick it off.
kick it off with Assistant County Manager.
And the budget team comes to the table. So in prior conversations, the board had asked to see updates on the financial plans for the public safety sales tax. You also asked to look at REIT 1 and detention sales tax because of the various things that we've been talking about of how much can these funds bear and what is the status. So Nicole and the team have brought those specific funds for your review today, and I'm going to hand it over to you.
So, good afternoon, Commissioners. Nicole Martinez, Budget and Fiscal Manager. I'd like to introduce my team if you haven't been officially introduced to them. So I'll let them go ahead and say their names as Jennifer is frantically trying to get something.
I'm trying to log into the meeting. Jennifer Smith, Budget Analyst. And I have Law and Justice and Public Health. I don't even know. I used to have everything.
Courts.
We just hired DV. So I have Courts, Law and Justice, and I'm sorry.
Dahlia Fonseca, Senior Management Analyst.
And Dolly's been with us, what, 2.5 weeks now? 2 weeks?
2.5, yeah.
2.5 weeks, so she's fairly new. And then on screen we have, go ahead, Diana, please.
Hi, I'm Diana Ahrens, and I work with our ARPA Recovery Fund and COVID-19 projects.
We're a small but mighty team. We're growing. All right, so yes, as Robin mentioned, we're just gonna talk through some of our financial plans. The first one up is gonna be detention sales tax. And when she's ready, she'll share her screen. Do you need a copy?
Here. I am getting there.
Well, she's getting that up to speed. Mr. Pettit earlier asked me, what's the deal about a BARS code that we're not allowed to pay pay for FTEs out of the detention facilities tax? Is there anything to that?
That is not accurate,
Okay,
and
good.
I
That's all I need to
have provided the legal opinions on that particular question to Mr. Pettit many times over the last 7 years.
Okay, well, we don't need to spend any more time on it. I
Nope.
just wanted
Just
to,
letting you know that he's had the legal
I
opinion
was
on
trying to
that.
fill a void there.
Can that legal opinion be shared with the commissioners?
I absolutely will send it to all of you so that you have it, because I think it might have been a completely different board at the time that I provided that information to Mr.
We
Pettit.
went through it in 2019.
Yes, on many occasions, he has brought that back.
Okay, so to look at this financial plan, I'm gonna draw your attention to what happened in 2023 and then the biennium budget, which is 24 and 25. So detention sales tax is a sales tax that we received here at the county. In 2023, our actuals are about $8.3 million. During the budget process, we had projected that the actual revenue coming into this fund would be flat compared to what was in 2022. And so we had, we actually got in, I'm sorry, I got that incorrect there. We left the 2024 revenues flat from 2023 budget when we were preparing the biennium. What we saw in our actuals for 2023 is that they're slightly lower than had anticipated. Our actuals to date, where are my notes, Jennifer?
No, they're all over the place.
Wait a second, those are not my notes I have here.
And I'm afraid to go to another thing because I don't want to lose the share.
Yeah. All right, so I'm sorry about this. I don't have my notes written down here correctly for what our revenues were projected in 2023, the exact number, but our revenues are down in 2023 from what we had budgeted during the budget process. And so what we saw that, however, our revenues were down, our expenditures were closely in line. So our beginning fund balance for 2024 is slightly the same during the budget process. The sales tax, as you know, as we've continuously reported to you guys based from a general fund perspective is that we are seeing flat sales tax growth. And you're gonna see that in this fund too. So however, in the budget development process, so now I'll get to 2024, you see here that the budget is 8.6 or $8.7 million, and that was forecasted flat over the budget from 2023. However, what we're seeing in sales tax is that the sales tax is actually coming in more around 1 to 2%. And so, and so this is what was projected in the budget. However, we are anticipating to lower that projection, and Jennifer does have this in Excel, so that when we start to talk more in detail about how that impacts the fund, she can, on the fly, tell you what that would look like, with the expenses that are built in, detention sales tax.
So, the bottom line here is you had asked if there was any capacity in detention sales tax to pay for at least part of the project at the FJC where they need their system upgrade, and no, there is not. Because we already had to remove costs from this fund just to get it to balance in this biennium, and the revenue's coming in even lower than we had hoped. So there is no capacity, and we will probably need to reduce costs in this fund even more when we hit the midterm.
Yeah, so we will be proposing, to lower the revenue projected in 2024 so that you can see what the expenses look like. So, Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind.
Stop sharing for a second.
Okay.
This is awful early in the year to have to start going through
This
this.
is Commissioner Mejia's favorite part of the job. So I'm gonna let her take the
Just
lead
this
today.
morning, she said her favorite thing about her job is the
Your new
budget.
employee
She just likes spending all the time with us.
You have a warped sense of humor, Sam.
Yeah, so, and,
Should have clarified, I like it when we
Nicole
have
and I
money.
were chatting, it's better to bring you bad news earlier so
Yes,
that we can
yes, I
figure out how
agree.
to deal with it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Year to date, we're
This is the
seeing,
first one.
through the first quarter,
They all look just
we're
like
seeing flat, we're seeing a 1% to a 2%. So she's gonna build in what it would look like at 1% over last year's actuals,
I don't know if I wanna scroll down.
and we can see how that's impacting the budget.
Yeah, you can see we're immediately in the red next year.
So in 2025. So during the midterm, as we continue to track what's going on in this fund and how sales tax are coming, we would come to you to talk about reducing expenses again in detention sales tax. And
Do you
what
want
does-
me to, make this bigger for you to actually see it?
What that would mean would be an impact to the general fund.
Okay, this one's different than,
Yeah, I just made the adjustment, so that's if the sales tax that we estimated, this is just a 1% increase over last year.
So the 8.6 in revenue in 2024 on the page assumed an increase in sales tax that we are just not seeing.
Right.
And you may recall that when Nicole presented 2 or 3 weeks ago, she gave you the latest sales tax report, the general fund sales tax. You went in last night and looked at March numbers, and what did you see?
Month over month for March was about 1.2%, so for the quarter, we're at 2%.
And you were thinking it was gonna be 2%.
Yeah, so we are right at 2%. And this is the theme you heard from us as we built the budget. Revenue is flat, and it is, sales tax at this time is playing out exactly that way. It's flat, that we are not seeing robust growth at this time. I mean, we might, later in the year, it might turn around, but right now, it's not.
I just bought a roof. I can't spend any more money right now.
So anything else about detention sales tax? And for Leonard's benefit, this particular fund, the revenue is 0.1% of general sales and use, and the fund can only be used for construction, maintenance, and operation of juvenile detention and adult correction facilities.
And that's a countywide 1/10 of 1%, is it?
Yes, countywide, 0.1%.
So if I can ask,
you're forecasting based on projections, right, of growth. Where do you get those projections from?
So we receive information from DOR on what's happened in the past.
Department of Revenue.
Department of Revenue, excuse me.
Department.
Yes, Department of we use also,
Do we have our own economists?
no, we don't.
No, that's,
But the
That would
state,
be wonderful.
yeah, we don't have one.
So
That's
then-
been me for a long
Are
time.
we adjusting quarterly then? Is that what we're doing today, or is this just at a request of a commissioner?
So we haven't in the past adjusted quarterly in the budget.
We have
but
not?
No.
We have not, but what we do is brief the board and I track that and share that. But we have not made that official change in the budget.
Right, and whenever the board asks for a status report, we update the plan and bring it with our best current information,
What's the frequency the board asks for that? Is it just,
whenever they
Ask for it.
choose to ask.
If I may say though, the budget.
when we're
office-
strapped for money.
we go to
Yeah, when they're looking for it, so like you said a couple days ago, do we have money in this fund to pay for this project? No, we do not, here's the plan.
we don't do any quarterly budget adjustments.
So we do not make quarterly adjustments in the budget.
Interesting.
Yes, but, the budget office is preparing monthly reports. We're in the process of putting together monthly sales tax reports across all funds,
Okay.
to be able to brief the board with that on a monthly basis and include it in the manager, report as well. So
Right.
that is something in the works that since I've joined this team, this wonderful county, that I'm trying to put into work.
And quarterly forecast.
And quarterly forecast, that is correct. We're in that process. Fine. They haven't seen it yet, but
Right,
it's going to come.
Nicole's got a couple of vacancies she's
Yeah.
working on filling them. Thank you for those, again.
Yes. thank you.
Yes,
We filled one.
yes, yeah.
We're working on it. I got them some more out. Okay.
So you, go ahead. I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll meet one-on-one.
Yes.
I'll ask you a million questions. Yeah.
Okay,
All right, so the next one in your packet, is public safety sales tax. This is the justice fund. So this is the fund that the auditor, PAO, and, or the prosecuting attorney and public defense, have, use of. And this is, again, based on the 0.2% voter approved public safety sales tax that just went through. This plan includes the 2024 adopted budget and 2025 adopted budget. The expenses here are for requests that were approved during the budget process for public defense. So you'll see, one FTE for public defense investigator and then one paralegal. So that's what's built in the 2024 budget. Also what's built in debt service is, a $10 million, bond at 6% over 10 years for the election services building. That is all at this time that's built in this fund. The projections of revenue, again, they're sales tax, so, sales tax is coming in lower. I'm anticipating that those amounts will be lower, but again, in January is when that tax went into effect. It doesn't get assessed until April. We won't see the revenues into the county until June to see what that looks like. So when this, estimate was put together, it was based off of 2022 information. Because it runs similar to our treatment sales tax, so we use that as a basis. So I'm anticipating that these numbers would go down.
Can I clarify something here? On, okay, so we're getting 0.2%, but countywide, this is collected, but the municipalities get 40% of what is collected.
That is
That's right.
So
correct.
that leaves us with 60%.
And
And
then,
then,
25% gets deposited into this fund and 75% into its adjacent fund for law enforcement.
25% of the 60%.
25% of the 60% is shown here.
Of the total amount collected across the county, the first 40% is taken off the top by the Washington State Department of Revenue and distributed to the cities, and then the remainder comes to the county. And then we split that amount that comes to us between these two funds.
Okay, between which two funds here?
And
The next one?
it's the,
next one.
the Justice Fund and the Law Fund. This one.
Okay, so this one's like the prosecutor,
This
public
is the
defense.
prosecutor, public defense, and the auditor's
Auditor.
election.
Okay, got it,
25% of
okay.
our section.
Thank you.
Right.
That kind of clarifies that part.
And can I ask on the debt service, so if we issue bonds and they're gonna cover projects that are help the sheriff and the auditor, are you divvying out the bond repayment
Bond
between the
payments.
two?
Yes,
Yes, we are.
like we do
With
with
that
all the
same
other
formula.
bonds.
Same formula, kinda?
No, the formula for the distribution of the payment of the bonds depends on how much we spend of the bond on each project.
Could be.
So if the projects, if we issue 30 million in bonds and 10 million is spent on the auditor's office and 20 million is spent on the sheriff's building, then 33% of the bond payment will go to the justice fund and 67% would go
Come
to
from.
the law fund.
Come from the other.
Right,
It
right.
goes the other way.
Yeah, and if the building's only 12 million, then it'll be a lot higher percentage from the justice fund.
Exactly, and we wouldn't issue the bond for that much, or we'd use, every bond resolution that the board passes has a clause to give you the maximum flexibility that anything used for something other than the initial proposed projects can be used for any other bondable project. So we can either use the excess proceeds to pay down the bond, or we can use it for other projects, but only to the extent that we can make the bond payments to pay for them.
It's kind of like a sidebar conversation. The accident management system, I'm seeing that, we're gonna do the system for the prosecutor and public defense. I'm wondering, has there been any negotiation on pricing that the sheriff is considering going onto this body camera system?
We know that the sheriff is very interested in the accident system. He has told Sherry that he wants to convert to that sooner rather than later. And in fact, I believe that Sherry shared with me that the sheriff would actually like to get off the system that he's currently got and onto an interim system until they can get on Axon. Sherry can tell us more about that, but yes, he does want to convert, and she has been looking into that.
And this was a system that he inherited.
Yeah, he inherited.
I'd
Yeah,
have,
right.
I'd have I can't
And-
remember if it was Sheriff Snozzy or
He
Sheriff
inherited
Sanders
it. And
that chose it.
it has not been compatible with what, something isn't, there's a rub here. I'm asking this for
Yes.
Leonard's benefit.
Yes, the challenge is that all of the footage that's collected goes into the cloud. And, the public defense and the prosecutor, have challenges pulling the information down for cases that have been filed. So or pending cases or whatever they need.
Challenges like they
Yep.
can't get it, or it's
Well,
on and
it's
off?
not that they couldn't get it, it was that it was extremely cumbersome. Right, and the Axum system would be so much better for them. We've figured out a workaround. It's not wonderful, but we need this new system to facilitate them getting the data. And then the sheriff is not particularly pleased with the way the system that he inherited is working, and also wants to go to the Axum system, and having them all on the same system would
And then,
of course be a great.
But all the municipalities and law enforcement in Thurston County will all be on one system, is that?
I don't know that every city in the county is going with Axon, but I believe that we've heard that many of them are.
It was all but
Yeah.
one, I think, Tumwater or something.
Right,
Tumwater's gonna go out on its own?
Already have it.
I think they have.
yeah, I think they have something.
And how's that working with the prosecutor?
Well, they make it work, they have to.
Well, and I think that there's some functionality with Axon that allows them to be able to better
Okay,
Exactly, better manage
work with
the.
even this external system.
Yep, Yeah, it's a better system all around than what we have.
So yes, thank you, Commissioner Mejia. Yes, so in 2024, that's also included in the budget in the capital line there for $130,000. So that was approved during the budget process.
Sorry, it's just,
That's
okay.
capital, not operational.
It's a one-time, so it's underneath the line of capital,
Like an out,
like an outlay, exactly.
but I understand where Rob's coming from, because it is operational, I get what
Well,
you're
there's
saying.
gonna be ongoing costs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there will be. Yes.
We'll have to work with IT and figure out what that maintenance would be.
So that 130 is cameras or something like that.
That's for the purchase of the software, so whatever
That's
the
all for
system
software
is,
for the cameras.
software, any other information that's needed to purchase the $130,000.
Has there been any analysis of what the ongoing is going to be?
Not yet.
I don't believe so.
We don't have that yet.
Who does that in this, would it be a department that does it, or would the finance team sit down and do it?
Something like this, it usually starts in the department, works with IT because it is tech, and then I would be involved.
What, could you remind us, like, I know why we reviewed detention sales tax, because there was that question about the juvie camera. Is there
Right.
something I'm supposed to be paying attention to this for?
So
While we were
we
reviewing
wanted to give you both halves or both parts of the public safety tax. The important or more interesting, if you will,
The next one.
is the other part,
sheriff's
which is the
piece.
sheriff's,
And that-
which is specifically what you
That
all
connects
asked
to
to
labor
see.
contracts and all the other things
Yes.
that we're being asked to fund.
That's exactly right.
Okay, gotcha.
And one quick question, in terms of the positions that are here, they're not reflected here.
They are not, I'm glad that you brought that up. So, the Blake positions, at one point, we considered adding those to this position during the budget process because we weren't sure if they were going to extend. We have been told that they are going to extend out to what year?
June of 2025 now.
So they have been pulled out of the projection. And then the court backlog positions, those are listed there because these are positions that departments are interested in extending after ARPA ends. And so those are listed there, just because there's gonna have to be communication or decisions on how this fund would be split between public defense and the prosecuting attorney. And these are just a list of some of those positions that would need to be considered.
So these
Going
are
forward.
things that we know are coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not on here, but Patrick and I have talked about, and you guys, he's presented to you about the caseload changes that are coming on public defense, and he would request public safety sales tax money for that piece of
Right,
it.
and as you can see, the knowing how much we're gonna need for just that alone, this fund will not be able to bear the cost.
No, and that's not even really what this fund was about. I mean,
No.
to the extent that we can, I think we should keep those completely separate. I mean, we may get to a point where we have no choice, but really, this was about funding the direct increase to the sheriff's funding that we authorized. We've included public defense as a direct result of the additional deputies on the road that are gonna create more cases. This was not, there's zero, in my mind, there is zero capacity for the new caseload standards for public defense, zero.
There is,
in a relation, it's connected, right? Like more deputies on the road means there's gonna be more cases, and then therefore we need more attorneys because
But we
now
can't-
there's new caseload. I know we.
We can't make that, we can't cede that ground to the state, honestly.
No, we can't. You're absolutely right.
Like,
But yeah.
they'll take advantage of the fact that our community threw down to increase public safety and the associated legal costs. They did not
right,
intend that to get swallowed up by a different issue,
No,
True.
I agree.
which should be funded by the state.
I agree with that.
Okay.
So I will also say, as we move to the estimates for the sheriff, that everything on this page is an estimate. The new tax just went into effect on Monday of this week. We have not seen the first revenue yet. That will come at the end of June. So even, this is our best guess at this time of the projections. And we really won't know how those are trending until they start coming in. So it'll be much later in the year as we head into the midterm when we really have a feel for what this revenue is gonna actually be.
I'd recommend in, future, obviously, 10-year financial plan dash, projected forecast as of and date it. That way if this, you know, yeah, you're right, so if someone grabs it, they're not gonna say, but you said.
They do that anyway. Yep. All right. All of these are projections into the future, yeah, and they clearly,
Good challenge.
yep, very nicely done. Okay, let's look at the sheriff.
All right, so what we have here is a combined financial plan. And when I say combined, it includes the sales tax from, the public safety sales tax. And it includes also the transfer in from the general fund on the maintenance of effort, as well as it includes revenues that the department, had in the general fund that are specific to the department. So licensings and permits, any intergovernmental revenues, so those are grants that are specific to their operations. Again, charges for goods and services, fines and penalties. So this is a combined, fully loaded fund. And what we anticipate very closely that it will pan out to be. So you'll see in 2024, this is the budget. So we budgeted 3.8, this is the 75% of the 40% of the 60% that comes to the county, so this is the other portion of it. This is the MOE there at 24.9. That is the amount that was put in the proviso at the time of the budget adoption. You'll see that that is steady for all the years. That is the revenue that through the proviso we're saying we're going to deposit into this fund. And then the revenues here, we've held them steady because they are very uncertain. We'd have to work closely with the department to be able to figure out what's really going on within these funds. As far as what grants they may come in, they come and they go, and so we have to be able to align that. So we just kept things steady from 2025 budget out in those revenues. You'll see that they're not large, so they're not gonna necessarily make a huge impact, but we did keep those steady. So when I get to the expenses here, what you have in here is what salaries and wages, personnel benefits, supplies and services, again, capital, interfund, any debt service, if there is any, that is in the general fund currently, we have placed that in this fund. What we did also is include what was approved in the 2024 budget and 2025 budget for the public safety sales tax. And so at the bottom of the sheet here, it has the assumptions. And so what it's saying in 2024, this includes 14 new positions, and that's what was approved during the budget process.
Those 14 are part of the salaries and wages?
Yes, they are.
And that's a 14 count, but the positions are phased in beginning in June.
Right.
So it's not gonna be a full 14 people.
It's not fully loaded for the full.
Immediately.
Okay,
That's
gotcha.
correct.
So they're prorated throughout the year?
Right.
Yes. There is a phase-in approach that Commissioner. So, of those 14 positions, if you wanted to know, the first phase-in was 8 positions, so that was 5 deputies, 1 detective, 1 legal assistant, and 1 sergeant. During the budget process, the sheriff's office also asked for 6 other positions, which were in the general fund, and they were approved to be in public safety sales tax. And of those were 6 deputy cadets, 1 evidence tech, 1 finance operations associate, and 2 deputy sheriffs. So that's the 14 positions that were built in 2024. In 2025, again, a phase-in of an additional 19 positions. And so that is 13 deputies, 3 detectives, 1 financial operations assistant, and 2 sergeants. What you see here is their vehicle costs, their one-time vehicle costs, their uniforms, their radios. It's fully loaded based on that proration, that phase-in for 24 and 25. We backed out any one-time cost in 2026, and any forecasting, we forecasted benefits at 5%. We also forecasted supplies and services at 2% increase, indirects at 5%. You'll also see that in debt service, we have a bond payment here for $20 million, 6% over 20 years. And then we also built in a reversion That reversion amount is 2%, and it's based on what we saw the sheriff come in the general fund at the close of 2023. What we have prepared, in which Dolly will share her screen, is the salaries and wages. They're, as you'll see, starting in 2027, that number is flat, because we could play around with what this fund would look like if we were to put a COLA in, and what this fund would be able to sustain.
What assumptions of COLAs do you have for 24, 25, 26?
That is the phase-in. So it's just,
There is no COLA built into this model for 26.
so 24, 25, and 26. 24 and 25, that was based on the biennium. I believe it's 6% based on the negotiations through the sheriff's department. And then, the years going out here in 26 forward, that is what, Dolly can put in, and we can say what that COLA might
So
be.
right now, no COLA is built in.
26 out, but
Right.
24 and 25, what was approved in the budget, the COLA is based on that.
Right.
And that, you said was 6%,
I believe it was 6%.
but do we know for sure yet? We don't really.
I thought we baked in 5 for 25.
Is it 5?
We'll have to look, but
And it was-
it's either 5 or 6. It's
And
not
that's
much.
just an estimate.
It was based on the
It
unions
was-
too, right?
Not for the sheriff, that was, we negotiated the other labor agreements. Now, we know that we don't wanna talk a lot about what the, bargaining strategy is in an open meeting, but we could just, play around here, what if it was a 5%
5%,
COLA?
yeah.
What if it was a 8% COLA? What if it's a 10% COLA? So that you can see what would happen to this fund. But you can already see with no COLA built in, starting in 26, that you're already don't have enough money in this fund to meet cash flow needs in future years. You are going to have to transfer in more general fund money than the maintenance of effort or the non-supplant level that we've been talking about.
Can I ask a question on that? I know this was probably already stated, but since I'm not a budget person, which line shows what you're saying, Robin, as far as?
This ending fund balance line,
Okay.
this one right here. See, it starts here, it goes up to 2 million, it peaks in 26, but then it starts to erode. And that's because we know that the internal service costs are factored out at a slight growth rate. But salaries are flat and,
So what you're saying is because the salaries in the out years don't have the COLA, the ending fund balance is already going down.
yeah,
Put a
even
COLA
with no
in that,
COLA,
And now you're gonna be in the negative immediately, almost.
right away.
Right, and that's adding 35 new positions, right, over the next. So in 2024, you added 14, in 2025, you're adding 19, and then in 2027, you're adding 2.
So this
Now-
model, which I think that's what it is, we consider this like a
It is
working
a model,
model.
yes.
You created it so that you could show the commissioners, you start plugging stuff in, assumptions, and it's gonna,
It's gonna go
Right.
negative. Yeah.
Now, again, the sales tax coming in, we don't know if we're gonna perform better than what these estimates are. With any luck, we will. But we also see that sales tax is coming in, low like we expected. So, are we gonna have more of the tax coming in? We don't know. Will the sheriff not spend more than the 2% that we saw him revert last year? We don't know. So if he is unable to fill these vacancies, and I just saw a post, or I heard something recently that the sheriff anticipates that his positions will be fully filled, in a few months' time. So if that's right, then this reversion will not be high. But if he's reverting more, then the fund balance will grow. but it's already not where it really needs to be for sustainable, just to meet cash flow needs. And we've got 3-month cash flow here. This is the type of fund that you could do 2-month cash flow would be acceptable because the transfer from the general fund's gonna be stable.
Yeah.
It's still, even with that, you're still not at a 2-month fund balance.
Thank you.
I'm wondering about the capital. That one seems to me like it's at 1.2, then 2.1, and then it goes down to 5,000, and then it goes up to 235, but then it goes down to 5,000, so
What is that?
what is that?
We wanted to see if you were paying attention to that.
Some mulligans in there.
Yeah.
So the $5,000 is a base authority in the capital for outlay. So if there's any one-time cost that they need to do for operations, so a chair, a desk, something along those lines. So that's steady throughout all the years. But in 2024, it's the onboarding of the 14 positions. So that's vehicles, that's MCTs, that's radios, that's body cams, scams, and things like that. So that's why the number is 1.2 in 2024. In 2025, it's 2.2 because you're onboarding, 19 new people. So that's why it goes up again. But in 2026, we're not onboarding anyone, so we're not anticipating more capital outlays, no vehicles, no MCTs technically in 2026. But in 2027, we're onboarding 2 more deputies. So we have vehicles, MCTs. So that's
Yeah.
the fluctuation in that line.
The vehicles alone are almost $100,000.
Yeah, I have that here. So vehicles,
Outside the new staff, do you have a trend, like a 2 or 3 year, before we started adding positions? Do you have a past trend of what they were spending on capital? Because that 5,000 seems very low for a sheriff's office.
yeah, I don't think they go over their authority in the capital line.
Okay, good to know.
And the reason is because we have put so much of their equipment into ER&R. So the ongoing costs for replacement are built into their, yeah.
Equipment repair and replacement.
And that shows on the interfund line on the
Yeah.
sheet.
That's what
So
So
interferes.
that's where that interfund line, yeah.
So-
I
so
wondered why
it's-
it's so large.
Body
Drop.
cameras, radios.
Ballistic vests.
Yeah, the vests are built into ER&R.
That's okay, that makes
Yep.
sense. Wow, their capital's.
I know, yeah, no, it's higher, but
And-
see it on another one.
We didn't make adjustments to the interfund rates in the future. These vehicles would be added to it, but we didn't make that adjustment
The
yet.
cost of it.
Does that have it, does the interfund have an inflator on it? Jeff, is that keeping trend or?
Yes, we tend to see 5% increase for the internet. Yep.
Good job, good job.
So this fund is tight, and if you'd like to see the impact of COLA, we're ready to show you that.
Would you like to see a 5%, being that was what we believe is in the budget? Do you mind just putting in 5%, Dolly, and what that looks like? And that is with 35 new positions, if you continue with that phase-in approach. And of course, as we start to get more revenues in, we'd work even closer with the sheriff's office to define these numbers and get even more closely in their estimates, right? So we'd keep working with them to define them, but this is what you're looking at.
And you're seeing this first today, but we have a meeting with the sheriff tomorrow to review this information.
So you'll get more refined
So
information.
the numbers just get, the FTE numbers just get scaled back if the COLAs are higher than expected or whatnot, right? I mean,
19 new FTE in 2025, you're saying would get scaled back?
yeah, you just don't have money for 19 new FTE.
You
in
could scale back the FTEs, you could make different choices about a building, we'd have to choose what, or you could transfer in more from the general fund.
And scaling back FTEs also scales back the interfund because you don't need the same equipment to support those.
Right,
Yeah.
and, you know, when the commitment to the public was more deputies with this money, just what are you gonna scale back? But you also take into consideration that the sheriff has been asking for, different things. Like, I don't believe his new his part of the Axum system is built into this. We really need to build that in. That's something we need to replace. And then other things that he's been bringing forward.
Well, I would like to see, I mean, this is based on his kind of program, and now that you've kind of built it out, now he needs to see that, and then I would like to see, you know, where does he feel like it's better to, you know, turn the dials to get it back into line?
Almost like we need to say to him, this is what we've heard you say.
Yeah.
This is so we put a model together based on that, and this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Now, how do we need to adjust that?
We pretty much, I mean, I think we pretty much took we gave him plenary latitude to like lay out what he thought he could, you know, he'd like to do with the public sales tax money, and that's what we're trying to do. But if it's not all gonna fit, I'd like him to give us the feedback of, here's where I think it'd be best to scale back, if something's gotta be scaled back.
So then, she put, it's Dahlia? She put the numbers in, so then we see the fund balance line go into the negative very quickly.
Yeah, that's at 5%. What would it look like at 10%?
Why are you laughing?
I know you're laughing.
I don't even know why you want to start Carolina having a fit now.
Is that 10%?
So we would share this model with the financial staff, with the sheriff, with Heidi, and we
Yeah.
talk to what assumptions we made and come to an understanding on what the assumptions should be.
So in 2030, we're at $41 million upside down.
Yeah.
And that's an
You know,
ongoing.
and
we're taking
again,
notes.
the farther out you get, the more squishy the numbers are,
Sure.
and yeah, it's,
Because you started.
You
It's
can never adopt a
forecast.
budget that's not.
yeah, it's forecast, but,
Well, like, you can't just adjust the expenses over time either, because other things come into effect, additional revenue comes up, like, hopefully.
yeah, one would hope, and again, I said this was conservative, we may perform better in the sales tax.
Yeah.
The COLA, I don't know how the model is built, but the COLA wouldn't be 10% in every year necessarily. You know, what we tend to negotiate in contracts is different between the years, but
It's every year. This
Yeah.
model set up
So-
to be consistent.
so
it's-
this-
So the way this model is built, if you put in 10%, it adds 10% every single year.
so it's not gonna look that bad.
Okay, yeah, that's dramatically different than reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
What's the assumptions in the sales tax growth?
So that was based off of 2022 TST, the same thing as the last fund, as what that was looking at.
2%?
2/10
So
of,
it shouldn't be 2% per year, it's 2% for this year, but then in the out years.
so the public safety sales tax, the forecast was done during the vote for the public safety sales tax, and it was based off of what the revenues look like for TST, because it was a good model. So there isn't a consistent, this is this much over each year, it's based off of
Treatment sales tax,
treatment sales,
TSD.
sorry.
I'm not sure what that is at all.
I can't believe you don't know the acronym, Chad.
So the public safety sales tax, what I would say about that line is that as the revenues come in, we would define that. And I am saying that I believe those numbers would go down. Based on the fact that we have a 2% growth, this was based off of what revenues and sales tax we were getting in 2022, which is drastically different from now.
Better or worse?
Worse.
Worse now.
Worse
Oh, yeah,
now.
things came down.
Our
It's-
growth is 1 to 2% in sales tax. This hits the same base.
So this is what you would ask for, and again, we're sitting down with the sheriff, I think the meeting with the sheriff is tomorrow, to review this with him.
And as you noted, it's 10% applied on top of each other each year, so the best look is, look at 2026, and you can see what it would look like. That's just that year at 10%.
I mean, this is also assuming that the board stays also at that 24 level as well, general transfer, it doesn't assume.
Exactly, you have the ability, and this is what we've been talking about, and what you talked with the sheriff, the prosecutor, public defense, and the auditor. You may choose to transfer more than the non-supplant level.
I would add also intergovernmental revenues. It could make an impact. Those are their grants. They may have some grants that are funding some of their positions. That can make a slight impact too, because that's steady there. So there's a lot to work with the sheriff's office to define this model, but there will need to definitely be some hard decisions made on what.
Right, and again, forecast with tons of assumptions, as all forecasts are.
Yeah.
And we haven't even actually seen the revenue come in yet. So there's that.
Okay, so now we're gonna jump to REIT 1. Okay,
One's looking scary.
yeah, so what I would say is that during the budget development process, we,
Real estate excise tax.
yep, so this is, sales, this is, 20.25%, so 1/4% of real estate exercise tax on any transactions on real estate within the unincorporated area. During the budget development process, we were tracking these revenues, we knew that they were decreasing. We had forecasted that 2023 would come in about 27% less than 2022 actuals. As the year closed, we found that the actuals were actually 32% less than 2022 actuals. So though we forecasted a steep decrease in what we thought 2023 would come into, it wasn't steep enough because it was another 5% decrease. What we forecasted in the budget for 2024 over 2023 is a decrease of 6%. And this is based off of what was going on in the economy. What we're seeing year to date, so the end of the quarter, is that the sales tax is actually, or the exercise tax is actually coming in at 3%, less than the prior quarter. And so we forecasted a decrease of 6%, but the actuals are coming in at a decrease of 3%. So that's kind of saving us, but as you see, we're still at a negative for 2024, and that is mainly due to 2023 coming in at 32% less than actuals in 2022. That is just the exercise tax or excise tax that we're getting on real estate in the unincorporated area coming in that way. You can see that in the expenses, we've removed all capital projects. The only expenses left in the fund are bond payments or debt payments. I've outlaid those underneath the assumptions on the debt payments there. We do 2 payments a year, one's on interest, one's on interest and principal. There are 3 outstanding debts. The 2015 debt, that's gonna be paid off in 2025. The 2016 debt, that's gonna be paid off in 2030. And then our last remaining debt of 2022 will be paid off in 2047. So this fund has been stripped of all of its expenses.
Projects.
No projects.
Can you, for Leonard's benefit, can you just summarize like the limits on REIT 1 versus REIT 2, what you can spend that money on?
So I'll start with REIT 2. REIT 2 can be spent on what I'm gonna call community infrastructure. So roads, sidewalks, sewer systems, lighting systems, parks, major maintenance of parks, only on capital projects, and they must be listed in the capital improvement plan. But it's that kind of thing, anything that supports development.
Okay.
Water systems, we've used it for culverts. So big infrastructure. REIT 1 can be spent on all the things that you can spend REIT 2 on, plus public facilities for the use of the county. That is the difference between the two, is REIT 1 is the only fund specifically allowed by the legislature, other than the general fund, to be used for county facilities.
So we would continue to monitor the revenues coming in. but we did forecast a decrease of 6%, and we're only seeing a decrease of 3%. So it may be a little promising to help us with ending the year in 2024. Also, in 2023, to help with the ending fund balance, we looked into using the interest that we generated in our ARPA revenues to help with this fund, and we could possibly do that again in 2024, depending on the magnitude of the ending fund balance.
Do you need, so like, what would we need to see in 2024 to kind of help us? Like, is it just like since we were 5% off last year, would then 1% lower, instead of 6%, make that up? Is that kind of, is that about on point, or do we need a better outcome than that to kind of get back on track with REIT 1?
I know we put in, if it was at 3%, we were still negative 50,000. But if we put in, I thought, does any of the ladies have it up, what it would look like?
Dolly has that one, or she should.
I don't have that.
And I got out of Zoom.
So I'm thinking, based on the numbers, it's gonna be like 5% or more.
Better than what we
Yes.
projected to kind of offset 2023.
Because 3% still left us at 50%, and so 5% might do it.
This one. But REIT has, if you look at the past, the pattern in REIT is like this. It either falls way down or it grows away.
Refinancings, you know, it's on,
Real estate.
it's a fee on document filing,
Yeah.
so if there's
Real
a low
estate
interest rates, ought to
So we might
Finances.
see an uptick of interest rates take,
Good,
It's on the numbers
Yeah.
on
well,
transaction.
I
and
know.
if people purchase an event.
Well, I wanna see what happens with the commission. The commission,
The 6%.
the settlement agreement that the
Oh.
realtors made where the commission isn't a 6% flat commission anymore potentially. So I wanna see if that changes things.
Interesting. I didn't think about that. Cause of effect.
I think we might have it.
so that's what we had for you today, those
Yeah.
three particular funds.
The only other fund in your packet is REIT 2.
you say there.
REIT 2, we're gonna have to
They're like, we just got
basically
it up.
cut back on the project.
Is that this one? We're not doing that one
No,
anymore.
they're just moving on.
Good job.
Stop sharing.
So REIT 2, the revenues are forecasted just like REIT 1, right? So they're mirroring each other. I just will add to this project, financial plan, that the projects in here are what was approved in the biennium budget, so 24 and 25. The actuals are just what we have in our system at the close of the year. This does not take into account, any unspent appropriation in 2023 for the project. That is something that the departments are still undergoing. We're in that process, but this is a working financial plan and what we have at this point.
Right, and basically, this reflects what's on your CIP for REIT 2, and to keep it in the black, you're gonna have to reduce, projects.
That's because it's not based on debt service, then we have that
That's right.
flexibility.
We have not bonded, again, there's a very small amount of debt that we pay out of REIT 2.
Okay, thank you.
That's all we have. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Job, team. Growing.
Commissioner items is next.
Hopefully Wayne has something about recreation after all that.
Something fun, yeah.
I have, if you wanna kick it off with the letter, I think everyone got a copy of it, but I have some hard copies here.
Yeah.
I can pass around.
I did a revision to Emily's letter, and so we left that hanging on Monday, so we just,
You're welcome.
I gave one to Wayne's assistant, and, Mr. Edwards, I don't know, I didn't take him out of the room, but I think he was pretty sure not. Gonna
Yeah, I think
gonna
he's
support it
probably
either
not
way.
gonna change his mind. And I know Wayne had a copy that Matt was able to provide for him.
So, I mean, I basically took Emily's letter and kind of went as far as I thought I could go, in the direction that she was trying to go. And this is where I landed, so you guys could say no, or you could propose some additional revision. We just need to kind of tie up. If it's gonna go out, it needs to go out. If not, then that's fine. The main thing I was trying to do was remove the specific endorsements of every detail in the program and more take a slightly higher pitch of like supporting some of the concepts there about dealing with rent increases and underscoring what an important issue this is for us to work on as a community. Commissioner Fournier.
Yeah, I read the letter and I really like the changes. I like the tone. I appreciate the work that was done on it. I'm still gonna stick to my position that I'd like to see us stay out of, the other jurisdictions' politics. I mean, maybe if they sent us a formal letter asking for our opinion, I'd be in a different position. But I don't know. That's where I'm at. So I'm a no on sending anything on it. But if the commission votes on it, I'll of course put my name on it if, the majority of the commission supports it. But I'll be a no still, just for the reasons that I already talked about.
Very good.
I liked your revisions a lot. Just to kind of echo what Commissioner Fournier said, I appreciate the work that went into this. I think taking out the specifics was a good idea. It makes it a lot simpler and still kind of touches on the key points that I was hoping to get across, so. I guess we're in the same position with Commissioner Mejia being the deciding person.
I do apologize. I need to mull a little bit over it as I'm like actually reading it and comprehending it right now. I got sidetracked with other things.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I do like the statement, and I would be more in favor of like adopting something as like a general as this some version of this is like a vision statement for the county. Just something that like when it comes to housing issues or when I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. So I would be open to taking a step back and having like almost like a position statement from the county on this, and it could be sent to everyone that cares, and not and I guess not I don't see where it's specific to what any one community is doing, but I like a lot of what I read in it.
One thing that I had, and I don't know if Rob's not here, but he made that statement that he was of the mind that the counties really could not regulate in this area because we haven't been granted that authority by the state, whereas the cities could. And if that's true, then that gives me a couple of extra reasons to feel comfortable about sending this letter. Because on one hand, I was worried that we were creating an unreasonable expectation of where we were headed, and I wasn't sure we were headed that way. And that may not be true if really our only role can really be at the county level to cheerlead the cities to work on this and to say, hey, we're behind you. So there's actually an extra reason for us to send this letter and it not, in my opinion, kind of be stepping on the toes of other jurisdictions, because this is kind of, if Rob's right about that, this kind of is our only role, is to basically say, hey, please work on this stuff. You guys got to do it. We can't do it. You guys got to do it, and we need it. So know that the county is behind your work. I don't know, that was kind of an extra wrinkle that I hadn't really thought of before Rob kind of explained that.
That's kind of where my head's at, is like, if this is a position statement from the county to, you know, all cities, please look for solutions, then it appeases me, because we're not, you know, dipping into Olympia's council's decision making. We're saying to everyone that we need to find solutions.
I'll just have some minor edits just on the, I think that, I think we should advocate much stronger that this be, I think, on the shared legislative priorities for 2025, I think we should really push that a little bit stronger. So I can include some edits on that. Because I think that's just on comments that I've heard, that this really needs to be addressed at that state level, right? I really feel like this, if this is going to be something that we're gonna do, then it really needs to be on the shared legislative agenda for 2025.
I'm sure that I'd be fine with whatever you come up
Okay,
with
so
myself.
I can muster up some edits, but other than that, I'd be willing to sign on to this letter, and I'll send some edits through.
If we're doing edits, and I would be much more comfortable, and maybe I'm asking, I don't know if I'm asking too much, if like we were to kind of dial back the mentions of Olympia, dial back specific, like, you know, calling out to policy, and I would want to send it out, what we produce, to all the cities and say, look for solutions. And maybe say something like, some of your neighbors, you know, look to them and they're offering things. But like, if it's maybe I'm not going to get my way, but I would like a general policy statement.
On that though, why would, just on a comment you made before, Commissioner Fournier, of like, you don't want to send this to like jurisdictions if they don't ask your opinion.
Yeah.
And you would send it to the city of Lacey and be like, okay, work on this.
Yeah, I'm confused about that too.
Because then we're not weighing in on their council's, you know, work. We're just saying, hey, it's just like declaring an emergency, a housing emergency. And, you know, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something. I'm trying to make it work in my head.
So you're just saying like, make a statement and like support, like, instead of saying Thurston County Board of County Commissioners, is supportive of
Any work that our local jurisdictions can do to, I mean, I can kind of envision what you're talking about, but
It's almost like a position paper.
rather than
Here's
a
our
letter of
position.
support, which
I
I don't.
mean, I'd almost want to, if we were going to do it that way, and I'm not saying I'm there, but if we were going to do it that way, I'd almost want to nail down what Rob was saying, because if we could sort of say, Thurston County doesn't have the ability to enact these, but we see the importance in the community. We ask our local jurisdictions to do. You could even obliquely say, we know the city of Olympia has been working on this over the past year. We encourage this. But again, if we're also advocating for it to happen at the state level, you know, do we want to encourage competing packages amongst Tumwater, Lacey, and Olympia? If we're also saying, actually, this is better if the state, because if the state does it, from what I understood from Representative Bateman, the state can actually do rent caps that could be more effective than what Olympia is trying to do with these disincentives to increase. So that's why I get kind of confused, because it's pretty complex between
The statewide solution is the one that I would be more of an advocate for, but like I like what you're saying though. Is like if we enumerated like the fact that the county doesn't have a role in this, however, we recognize that there's an issue and we're sensitive to the issue, and we're here to be partners with our our neighboring jurisdictions as they try to work it out. We're gonna be supportive.
So I'm not sure what sections Rob was referring to, but I'm looking at RCW 5918-440, relocation assistance for low-income tenants, which I believe is part of the new City of Olympia code. Certain cities, towns, counties, municipal corporations are authorized to require relocation assistance for low-income tenants. It specifically says the counties could do that.
I
59.
think Rob was talking about rent caps.
None of us can do rent caps, including the cities.
Which was, what was
Okay.
the CW, Robin?
That RCW is 5918-440.
Thank you.
So I would suggest if you want to explore whether or not counties can do the same things that the city is, we would want to check with our attorneys.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm just gonna say, writing a letter like that to all jurisdictions kind of defeats the purpose of what I was getting at with writing this letter in the first place. It's about a specific issue happening in Olympia, and I respect your position, Wayne, but like, you weren't there at all, and then Commissioner Mejia said she had some minor edits, and now the whole purpose is kind of being clouded. So, if we want to send out a letter to all the jurisdictions, just a general letter of support, that's fine. Like, that's cool with me. I think that's a good idea as well, but that kind of defeats the purpose of what this letter is. So if we want to do both, that's fine. But, getting rid of what is here or changing the whole purpose is, kind of just defeats where we were at, and it sounded like we had a majority, and now we're kind of going away from that.
Okay, well, I'm willing to stick by the letter with whatever tweaks Commissioner Mejia would like to put in about the legislative priorities,
Yeah, I thought that was a good idea as
just
well.
to get this issue resolved. Okay, so we'll see those from you, Commissioner Mejia. Does anyone else have another commissioner item that we want to segue to before we break? Commissioner Fournier, do you have anything?
No, not necessarily, not really. I attended as I mentioned to you guys, the Grand Mound Rochester Chamber today. There was a legislative update given by the members of the 35th District. A lot of the same topics we heard about earlier, just kind of a different perspective. So it was interesting to listen to that.
Who was there? Was it Representative Barno or?
No, that's because all of Rochester is in the 35th now. And so it was Couture, Griffey, and then the LA for Drew McEwen.
That's cool. Anything?
No, nothing else.
Okay. Well, then we can get this letter out. Sounds like once we get a final draft from Commissioner Mejia, and we can route it for signature. And with that, we're adjourned.